All right, what's going on, everybody? We are here. We are live. I hope you're all having a good day today or having a good evening so far. I wanted to come with you guys live today. I was in the middle of editing a video that I'm going to be putting up sometime tomorrow morning, Lord willing, right? I'll have it up tomorrow morning. But I came across this article about Sheila Jackson Lee. And it really irritated me and aggravated me because I've been seeing a lot of articles like this pop up ever since Joe Biden selected Kamala Harris as his VP running mate. Joe Biden selecting Kamala Harris was nothing more than disrespect and contempt toward the descendants of American slavery. And that's what I wanted to discuss. And there's a lot of different ways to talk about it. But one of the chief ways that I want to talk about it and express it and expound on it is through this article titled Sheila Jackson Lee, Harris Has Taken Us to the Mountaintop in Martin Luther King Jr.'s sermon. So that's what I wanted to discuss today. And the reason that I wanted to discuss that is because I've been very irritated within the last 24 hours, we can say, with the way in which mainstream media, as well as a host of other celebrities and Black political pundits, have been making an attempt to go hard in wrapping Kamala Harris up in the lineage of the descendants of American slavery. The reason that that doesn't sit well with me and it irritates me outside of the obvious is primarily due to the fact that I myself am not a descendant of American slaves, as most of you clearly know. I am of Haitian descent. I was born and raised in Chicago. I moved to LA when I was 19, going on 20, and I've been here ever since. But being that I'm not a descendant of American slavery and I do what I do, it rubs me the wrong way when I consistently see whether it's Sheila Jackson Lee, who is a descendant of Jamaicans, if I'm not mistaken. You have Kamala Harris, obviously, who is half Jamaican, half Indian. And then you go as far back as not too long ago with Barack Obama, who's half Kenyan, half white. You have all of these non-descendants of American slavery that are speaking on behalf of the descendants of American slavery, but deliberately make it a point to get it all wrong. And they do it on purpose in order to continue to undermine the descendants of American slavery. Now, with this article here, I want to scroll down just a little bit and just get straight into the meat and potatoes of this. Because like I said, it doesn't sit well with me and it irritates me because unfortunately, I'm in the same boat with these folks, and it's embarrassing, to be honest. It's just simply embarrassing. I'm not ashamed of my lineage being Haitian and whatnot, but being in this country and me doing what I do, it's embarrassing to see so many non-descendants of American slavery coon it up the way that they do, to be frank. And you all know as of recent, I don't like using that kind of language. I don't really like calling people coons and things of that nature, but that's really all that this is. And it's embarrassing. Let me get into this, even though I don't have it highlighted here, but Sheila Jackson Lee said that Senator Kamala Harris, who was selected as presumptive Democratic presidential nominee, Joe Biden's running mate, has taken us to the mountaintop that Martin Luther King Jr. mentioned in his final sermon. Now, I want to just go straight down to the highlighted part to where Sheila Jackson Lee stated, there was much reflection, but a lot of tears and a lot of reflection on the history of what we're making today. The Texas Democrat said on Anderson Cooper 360, what I would say is that so many women have tried to climb that mountaintop that Dr. Martin Luther King spoke of. I think today it is evident there is an affirmation not only of Black women, but women of Southeast Asia, women of color, that they have finally reached a status where they are affirmed in this nation as equal partners. And this mountain that we've all been trying to climb Kamala has now taken us to the mountaintop. So Sheila Jackson Lee continued to hammer into the ground the fact that Kamala Harris has taken us to the mountaintop. She's taking Black women to the mountaintop. She's taking Black folks to the mountaintop. And this is the same nonsensical rhetoric that you were hearing during Barack Obama's campaign, or I should say after Barack Obama was elected president. This necessity to wrap these folks up in the lineage of the descendants of American slavery to legitimize their Blackness, to authenticate them and authenticate their voice as being people who can speak out on behalf of the descendants of American slavery. This is a constant that they keep doing over and over and over again. It's nonstop. And when you scroll down a little bit more, I just want to play for you what Sheila Jackson had to say, but she continued to add on and pile on top of the fact that she was weaponizing the legacy. Excuse me, there was a car that drove by very loudly. The way in which she continues to weaponize the legacy of Martin Luther King, she does the same thing with numerous Black women as well, who are descendants of American slavery. So let me play that for you very quickly, because essentially she's putting Kamala Harris in the same boat as these women like Fannie Lou Hamer and whatnot.
Well, we're making history tonight, joining myself with a great leader herself, Eleanor Holmes Norton. I'm delighted to be with her. There was much reflection, but a lot of tears and a lot of reflection on the history of what we were making today. What I would say is that so many women have tried to climb that mountaintop that Dr. Martin Luther King spoke of. In the early 1800s, Sojourner Truth tried to move into the suffragette movement. We know Madam C.J. Walker tried to be a businesswoman. We know of Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Jordan, and Fannie Lou Hamer. I think today it is evident that there is an affirmation not only of Black women, but women of Southeast Asia, women of color, that they have finally reached a status where they're affirmed in this nation as equal partners. And this mountain that we've all been trying to climb, Kamala has now taken us to the mountaintop. It is an enormously important moment, and it's based upon her own history and talent as she led such a large department in the AG's office, 4,800 staff, and a $700 million budget. It has now been affirmed that women can lead.
That was wildly disrespectful. Comparing her to Madam C.J. Walker, Fannie Lou Hamer, just all these other women. If I'm not mistaken, Sojourner Truth, I believe she said, to compare Kamala Harris, a woman that has openly came and spoke out of her mouth that she's not going to do anything for Black people. She said this out of her own mouth. I'm not doing anything for you. That's what she told us. Not doing nothing for you. For her to open her mouth and speak that, and then in the same breath, you have a politician that's putting her in the same lineage with these strong women that came before her. Like I said, it's just wildly disrespectful. And like I stated earlier, it aggravates me and pisses me off so much because Sheila Jackson Lee, like myself, is not a descendant of American slavery. Sheila Jackson Lee is of Jamaican descent. And it's embarrassing, to be honest. It's extremely embarrassing. And it irritates me and it pisses me off. And as it pertains to this mountaintop that apparently we have climbed, Black women have climbed, Black people have climbed. Apparently, also, this is the second time we've climbed this mountaintop as well. Because remember, we climbed this mountaintop with Barack Obama. We climbed it with him. Now here we are again. Apparently, we fell back down, but we've climbed it again with Kamala Harris. We all know that this is foolishness. But in closing, because I'm not going to hold you guys too long and pontificate for too long on this, you all get the point. I just want to give you guys a little data to walk away with. And it's not something that you all don't know. Most of you know this already. Let me remove this off the screen. And let me pull up the great research paper, What We Get Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. Give me just a moment. Okay, so you should see that right in front of you right now. Let me scroll up to the top, because The level of disrespect is so crazy as she sits here and weaponizes the legacy of Martin Luther King, as well as the legacy of all those great Black women that came before all of us, to say that we have arrived and we're here. Yet within simply the introduction of what we get wrong about closing the racial wealth gap, it states the racial wealth gap is large and shows no signs of closing. Recent data from the Survey of Income and Paid and Program Participation 2014 shows that Black households hold less than 7 cents on the dollar compared to white households. The white household living near the poverty line typically has about $18,000 in wealth, while Black households in similar economic straits typically have a median wealth near zero. This means, in turn, that many Black families have a negative net worth. Yet we've arrived to the mountaintop. Let me scroll down just a little bit more. Like I said, I'm not going to beat you all over the head with data because you all know this already. A lot of you have already read this paper. And if you haven't, you should read this research paper. If I'm not mistaken, it's only 66 pages long. It's called What We Get Wrong About Closing the Racial Wealth Gap. The 99th percentile Black family is worth a mere 1.5 million, while the 99th percentile white family is worth over $12 million. This means over 870,000 white families have a net worth above $12 million, while out of the 20 million Black families in America, fewer than 380,000 are even worth a single $1 million. By comparison, over 13 million of the total 85 million white families are millionaires or better. But we have arrived to the mountaintop, according to Sheila Jackson Lee. We've arrived to the mountaintop. I say all that to say, and just to simply affirm, as many of you already know, I don't stand by this. I don't support any of this at all whatsoever. And like I've stated close to a year ago, for brothers and sisters like myself, who are not descendants of American slavery, we are the descendant of immigrants who came to this country. For those of us that have the audacity, like myself, to want to speak on behalf of the descendants of American slavery, it's your job and it's your duty to call out this foolishness like I have, to rebuke it, and to just simply cast it down. I know I'm using a lot of Bible terms right now, rebuke it and cast it down, but that's real. That's real. That's your job. That's your job, is to know your place and to speak out against this foolishness. Kamala Harris has not made it to any mountaintop for the descendants of American slavery. The descendants of American slavery are at the bottom of the economic totem pole, and they're trapped there without reparations. They're not getting out. That's a fact. We have not climbed any mountaintop. We are still very much so at the bottom. And not only at the bottom, the descendants of American slavery are buried underneath that mountain. And like I stated just a moment ago, reparations is the only way out. Now, for those of you who have been following me for quite some time now, you also know that I don't just speak on reparations. That's not just the only way out. But if you want to know what I'm talking about right now, you got to go to the YouTube page, the YouTube page, your home screen, and you got to check out my series of videos titled Brother, Please Hear Me Out. I won't go too much. I won't go in too much of a tangent on that. I want to stay on topic. But for those of you who know, you know, if reparations don't kick in, you'll be straight if you've been listening to what I've been talking about on Brother, Please Hear Me Out. So with all that being said, in closing, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down. But before I do, I just want to make one quick announcement. I do have a new YouTube channel. I know some of you are subscribed to it already, but that channel is called TD News. And I'm going to see if I should have had it pulled up already, but let me leave the link in the description for you below. For those of you who had an appreciation for the official news that I was doing a few months back ago, you remember how I had that very professional looking news opening? I have a channel that's going to be specifically dedicated to strictly news. It won't be any opinions and it won't be too much commentary. It'll just strictly be news, because we need legitimate news that speaks on behalf of Black Americans here in this country, that actually matters to us. There's a lot of people that you need to know about. There's a lot of people that I want to introduce you to. But I want to set up a channel that's a little bit more professional, to say the least. and I've just left the link in the live chat. So if you could all subscribe to that channel, TD News, I would greatly appreciate it. But the reason I want to set up that channel that's a little bit more on the professional side is because I do want to bring in and introduce to people um, people that aren't typically in the new black media space. You know, people like Dr. T. Hassan Johnson, Dr. Tommy J. Curry. There's a brother by the name of Eli. He has a YouTube channel called Whatever Happened to Common Sense. This brother is brilliant. He's extremely thorough in everything he do and he's in everything he does. And he's but he inspires me a lot with how thorough he is, you know. But I would like to introduce these brothers on that platform. That's what I would really like to do, is introduce them on that platform and keep it on a more professional platform, because at the end of the day, that is the goal, man. Like I always say, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. Despite the fact that that channel is on YouTube, I have a new website as well called TD News Network. Let me pull that up for you. And you can see that, you know, your boy's stepping it up, man, when it comes to the professionalism. At least I'm making a strong effort to. Let me see if I can get that on the screen for you before I shut this down. Chrome tabs. And it should be in front of you right now. That is the new news website, TD News Network. As you can see, the homie Ryan Glenn over here dropping articles. I pay that brother weekly, and that weekly money comes out of the Patreon. So shout out to all my brothers and sisters that contribute on Patreon. But this is the new news website that I launched. And like I said, the goal is to be completely independent of YouTube, not grow big on YouTube. So with all that being said, make sure you subscribe to the new YouTube channel, which is TD News. I've left the link in the live chat, but I'll also leave the link pinned in the comment section below after I shut this video down. And that's it, man. I don't want to ramble on too long. I appreciate you all for sticking around with me and being in the room with me. Have a great evening, and I will see you in the morning, or I should say I'll be dropping a new video in the morning. So with all that being said, peace.